In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to export a calendar from the SCH website and then import it into the calendar of your choice. I'll give you two examples, one for importing into Microsoft Outlook and the second one for importing into Google Calendars. The process is similar for other programs as well. First thing you need to do is to click on Calendar. Once you get to the calendar, you'll notice that at the top you have some options. You can choose to see how you display it. You can choose what you actually want to see in terms of time period, and then there's also some ability to filter. For our purposes, we're going to first of all go to custom, and we're going to extend the time period out 90 days. That will get us through the end of the year. The second thing we're going to do is filter. Now, if you click on filter, you'll see a lot of items are there by default. These are the items that display on the calendar regardless. What you can do, and this is something I recommend, is start with clean slate. Click on uncheck all, and what that will do is give you nothing selected. Now, you then need to choose which things are relevant for you. In our case, we have lower school girls as well as a girl in the upper school. And then notice underneath there are also athletics. I'm going to take a look at athletics as well. And in this sample, I'm going to choose varsity girls softball as well as JV girls softball. Now, it's very important before you leave the filtering that you click on the apply filter at the very bottom of the list. If you don't apply the filter, you're going to go back to what was already defaulting. So I've now filtered the options both by time period as well as by interest. The final step in this part of the process is to export it. So I'm going to click on the green button that's labeled Feeds, and you see it gives you several choices. I've found that if you just choose the iCal option, that'll pretty much work in most programs. So I choose to export the iCalendar data. It's going to ask me what I want to do with the file. I can choose to open it in my default calendar or save it. I recommend saving. It's just a way to sort of keep the two steps separate, and it gives you a little more control over your options later. So I'm going to click on Save. And then it asks me where I want to save the item. In my case, I'm going to save it onto the desktop. I do like to give it a name so that I can remember which calendar it is. So in this case, I'm just adding an SCH in front of the export item. Okay, so I've now exported. The next step is to import it into the calendar of choice. The first calendar I'm going to import into is Microsoft Outlook. I'm using Microsoft Outlook 2013, however the process is similar for any version of Outlook from, let's say, 2007 on. You notice I have a calendar that's open to today. I'm going to select File, and then I have one of my choices is Open and Export, and then from there I'm going to choose to Import. It then asks me what I want to import. In this case, I have an iCalendar file, so I'm going to select ICS and then Next. And it's going to ask me where the file is located. In this case, I had saved it onto the desktop. So there's the SCH Cal export file. I'm going to click on OK. Now, this next step is extremely important. It asks you if you want to import the calendar as is or if you want to open it as a new calendar. I strongly recommend you treat it as a distinct new calendar, and that's for a few reasons. First of all, by having it as a distinct calendar, it'll make it easier for you to re-import the SCH calendar later, because it means that those items are isolated from everything else. If you don't do that, you can end up having lots of duplicate items on your calendar. The second reason is that with Microsoft Outlook and with Google, and I'm sure it's the same with other programs, you can overlay distinct calendars, so there's really no value in putting it into that one calendar. And then finally, if for some reason you were to have made a mistake with what you exported, it's much easier to just wipe out a distinct calendar than if you've put all the items into your calendar. So I'm going to choose to import up, and if you have it set for day, it'll show up right next to your current calendar. Now, one of the great things I mentioned was that these calendars will overlay. So one thing you can do is if you go over to the new calendar, right click on it, and you can choose to overlay the calendar. And at that point, you will have all of the activities from the two calendars lined up and displaying at the same time. For the final step in this demo, I'm going to show you how to import that same SCH calendar into Google Calendar. This is a very similar process to what we did with Microsoft Outlook. However, there's a couple of caveats around it. The biggest thing you need to be careful about is you need to create a new calendar if you want to actually keep the SCH items distinct from your regular calendar, and you need to do that before you actually do the import. So I'm going to go to this area over here twice, the first time to create the calendar, the second time to import it. So I'm going to click on that, and then from there I'm going to choose Settings, and you see that at the top one of my choices is Calendars. I'm going to go to Calendars, and I'm going to create a new calendar, and in this case I'm just going to call this SCH New. You can call it whatever you want. Google Calendar defaults automatically to the settings that you're using elsewhere. You can of course change them, and as long as you're happy with everything that's there, you just choose to create the calendar, and it takes a second, and then what will happen is you'll see the calendar show up right over here underneath, in my case, my activities calendar. So the second step in this process is to actually import the file, and for that I'm going to go back to where I was before, and I'm going to choose Settings again, and under Calendars, one of the choices is to import the calendar. I'm going to click on that. It asks me to browse my computer. Again, I put this file on the desktop, so I'm going to go to the desktop, click on the file I want, choose Open, and one thing to be very careful about is that it defaults to your main calendar if you don't change it. So in this case, it would have gone to my activities calendar. I want to make sure it goes to SCH New. That way there I can keep my main calendar clean. And with that I'm going to click on Import, and it will take a second to do. It'll tell me how many things are imported, and then I can click on Close and return to Calendars. Now we can see that the SCH New calendar is there, and it has the information that was imported from before. And that's it, the process for exporting from SCH, importing into Google and Outlook.